Welcome to the United States of Small Business, a podcast where the essence of American entrepreneurship is celebrated in every episode. With host John Quick at the helm, join us as we embark on a journey through the heart of the nation, uncovering the inspiring stories of small business owners from coast to coast. Experience the vibrant energy of bustling cities and the serene beauty of small towns, all while discovering how individuals are turning their entrepreneurial dreams into reality, even against the greatest odds. Each episode brings you face to face with the dreamers, creators, and doers who form the economic backbone of our country, all sharing their spirit of innovation and resilience. Whether you are in the early stages of sowing the seeds for your own business, scaling new heights in your current venture, or simply captivated by tales of grit and triumph, you are in the right place. Tune in on platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and beyond. For deeper insights and to connect with the heart and soul of America's main streets, visit UnitedStatesOfSmallBusiness.com. Subscribe to United States of Small Business with host John Quick now and be inspired by the powerful stories of entrepreneurship, community, and the unwavering pursuit of the American dream. Begin your journey of inspiration with us today.
Welcome to the United States of Small Business podcast. I'm your host, John Quick. Today, we're joined by Peter Wasmer of Florida, who is a serial entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience. Peter is an expert in helping small business owners manage like pros through constant innovation and a deep understanding of entrepreneurship. Peter's impressive career includes managing a $650 million portfolio at Somerset Capital Group, building Chrome Capital into a national finance platform, and creating the Pro Valet app to streamline operations for service-based businesses. Today, he'll share insights on generating value through automation, leveraging technology, and enhancing customer service. So without further ado, Peter, welcome to the United States of Small Business podcast.
Thanks, John. Great to be here.
Well, this will be fun hearing a little bit about your story and your background and how you've can hopefully add some value to folks that are kind of exploring the entrepreneur world. But first, take me back to when you first kind of got the bug for being in the business world, being an entrepreneur. We'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, thank you. I tell you, it started at a young age. So I grew up in an entrepreneur house. My dad is he's from Cuba, and so he's an immigrant. And when he arrived here, he didn't speak English, and had a chance to really embrace. At the time in the 50s, the American dream was so redolent, and he couldn't help himself but to chase it, and he did. And he figured out quickly that he was not somebody who could work with a large corporation. He was somebody who had an independent mind about himself, and so that was the household I grew up in. We had people over for dinner who became business partners of my dad. We had Sunday outings with people who became co-workers with my dad. It was sort of a 24/7, 365 event. It wasn't a 9 to 5 sort of lifestyle. But what it showed me, actually, after I got out of college, I started with a large corporation, and I quickly realized the strictures that are put on people, which is one of the reasons people want to branch out. They want to feel that they can spread their wings, right? So I figured after I'd had a couple of years worth of working with other people, that this whole small business entrepreneur mindset was really where I wanted to be. My failure was I had no idea how to do it. So there was a lot of tripping. And we still trip today. We still fail regularly, but that's part of the journey. I think when you're inside of a large corporation, there isn't necessarily that opportunity to try your own thing out and trip and fail and try again. Which in some respects, for a lot of people, that's exactly what they want to do, and that's exactly where they ought to be. But for a lot of people who are looking for, how do I get outside of that and branch off into my own thing? There's no greater step than the first one. So I took the first step. I started a clothing line. I had a great, cool idea. Put my money into building out, a brand. My claim to fame was that I sold it into several national retailers, but I didn't really have any of the experience in retail to make that a true success. So that folded. And then I got into, I actually went to work for my dad in equipment leasing, because I found that the entrepreneurial spirit as a sales guy in that kind of an environment was pretty broad. I had the support mechanism of the internal operation, but I basically had free run of the country to go after anybody I wanted to. And so was able to establish relationships and started to understand the value of building those, and had a great long career in the equipment leasing world. And then we sold the company in 2007. I stayed on with that company for a couple more years in a sales role. And when the entrepreneurial spirit started to really cap off, where the new guys who owned the business said, look, this is the way things are going to be, I said, we're probably not a good fit anymore. So I went my way, and they went their way. They've been very successful, fortunately. And then I decided to try my hand at something that just interested me. One of the things I found out was I had an inane curiosity, right? A little bit of an ADHD sort of problem, which was fun, but it was also problematic. Again, I was happy to step into something that I didn't necessarily know a lot about, and take risks, seeing how we could try to grow something. And so I got into building Facebook apps, none of which were really very successful. This was back in the very early days of Facebook. And the skill set, one of the things I have learned is that as you go along through life and these different experiences you have, they can become building blocks for the next project, right? So I think anybody who's thinking about, do I want to step into this entrepreneurial role or even a small business role, think about the lessons that you learned from where you were and how you can use those learnings to accelerate where you are in maybe moving into a small business ownership or entrepreneurship. For me, in the building the Facebook apps, I was introduced to the whole world of open source development, and what did that really mean? And somewhere along the way, and I guess it was in 2010, 2011, I had actually had some investment bankers approach me and ask me if I wanted to start a Harley Davidson leasing company. I said, why are you talking to me? And they said, well, because leasing. I said, yeah, I don't know a thing about Harley Davidsons though. But as it turned out, it was a fairly straightforward analysis on them as assets. So when we started a company called Chrome Capital, and it was an absolutely rock and roll, fabulous build right from the get-go, and right from literally a napkin. Like, if I was going to lease a Harley Davidson, this is how I would do it. And then, has anybody else ever done this before? And the answer was no. I'm like, oh, that's good. It's an open territory. Well, little did I know that Harley Davidson was really not really, they weren't warm and welcoming to other finance operations showing up underneath their big tent. Nevertheless, we had a very good relationship with them. But I took into that the experience I had in leasing, the former leasing company that I was a part of. We had 5 different systems into which we had to put all of our data. And managing that was just first of all, it was inconsistent. Each of the 5 systems needed the same information, and invariably there was a hole or a gap where some of that information didn't make it, and it caused a lot of confusion. Very expensive to operate that way. So when we started Chrome Capital, I said, I want everything in one umbrella. I want the information to go in one time and manage it from one system, which was great, because that was also the way to do that was built on the open source architecture that I'd become familiar with when I built the Facebook application. So we took those 2 learnings and put them together, took the leasing learnings and the understanding of that, put that together, and pretty quickly came up with the whole concept of automating the lease at the dealership level. So really understanding the marketplace. Those guys knew the bikes a lot better than I did. So I let them I let them pick, whatever bike they had on their floor. I needed a system that could allow them to do that. And then to put in some other information and click a button that said, yes, this rider is approved and this is the structure. And if you like it, push this button here. And so that was the system we got to, which was pretty impressive. I don't know if you've gone to lease a car or buy a car recently, but it still takes 4 to 7 hours to have that beginning to end process happen. We took motorcycle riders in dealerships and put them through a system that allowed them to leave the store within 30 minutes on the bike.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really a very, very cool process and a great run. That business morphed into another business where we expanded the offering beyond Harley Davidson's into all power sports. And then that entity got rolled into an auto finance business. So that whole thing continues to do its thing out in the wild. I left that operation, and it was with all of that knowledge that we gained in learning how to automate things that this new venture, Pro Valet, came into play. I had a problem at my house with my pool. I picked up the phone to make a phone call to the repair guy and never heard anything back. The only thing I heard back was about 30 days later, the light that was broken was actually on. I had heard nothing, but there was an invoice in the mailbox for some egregious amount of money. So I left the voicemail, but never heard anything back in terms of the plan or options or what have you. And I found that to be a big hole in terms of customer service. So we went about the process of building Pro Valet, which is business process automation for small and medium-sized service companies. We're specifically targeting regular interval service companies. So there's two different kinds. There's an appointment-driven business, which is like a plumber or an electrician, where you have an acute problem. You pick up the phone, you call, somebody comes, fixes it, you pay them, you're done. We're looking at and focusing on the regular interval services like a pool service, lawn care, pest control, where there's this almost a subscription relationship you have with them, right? But the company itself needs to be able to manage their business in a way that's different than the appointment-driven business. Their funnel is already full of jobs. The thing that they need to do is they need to get really efficient in order to pull money out of their business. And so that's what we do. We've automated all of the processes for scheduling, dispatch, invoicing. We automatically collect customer payments for them. That was the thing that I brought from the leasing industry also, was if I can't get paid by a Fortune 500, if I'm going to, in the old leasing business, when I got into the consumer leasing of Harley Davidson's, I'm not going to wait around for a check. So we created an automatic ACH pull mechanism by which payments got paid right on time. And if they didn't, we knew about it. So we've employed that over here with Pro Valet, where all of the customers that sign up with us, they have this facility that allows them to actually draw their monthly numbers or any invoice that goes out automatically. And sort of the piece de resistance in Pro Valet is the ability for the company to communicate automatically with their customers. And so it's a better way to communicate, because every single one of these service businesses says, I want to be more efficient, I want to drive more revenue, and I want to be able to communicate with my customers better, because that's how you stay sticky with them. All you have to do is tell them what's happening. They don't need a lot. They just need to know what's happening. So that's what we've done with Pro Valet. And so far, it's been pretty successful. I've been very happy with the way it's evolved.
That's awesome. So there's going to be folks listening in that have, pool maintenance business or some other service kind of business.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about some practical and tactical things that this software could make their life a little easier. You've alluded to some of them, but I think, a lot of folks, especially as they're starting out, or even, 2 or 3 years into it, they're managing their schedule in their email account and text messages and those kinds of things, which is not very efficient. Stuff will slip through the cracks. You'll forget an appointment. You'll forget to follow up. You'll, just, it's life, right? So Talk to me a little bit about how this could make, the guy that has a pool business in Houston and has 300 pools he's servicing, his life a little easier.
That's the biggest layup I've ever had. Thank you for that question. Every one of these service businesses focuses on a core deliverable, and that is the service. And there is a flywheel of information that flows in order to understand what that service is and then how to deliver it. And so in our system, we have a service request module. And I don't want anybody to think that any of this is complex or complicated. It's not. It is dirt simple. We employ a philosophy called TGM. Build it so that a third grade mentality can operate the system. And so that's not degrading anybody. It's just letting you know that it's dirt simple to do it. So service requests for any service business come in the form of phone, email, text, and they typically get written down on a sticky note or on a pad somewhere, and that doesn't really convert into a job until you actually do something else. And with our system, we've created a service request module where the customer has a tool. They have in our case, people who take us up on Pro Valet, their customers get a free mobile app. And people think, oh, why would my customers want a free mobile app? Well, number one, they'll get all the reports. Whenever you do service, you'll get reports automatically. You'll get invoices automatically. You can pay for that bill with their thumb, or what we encourage is the auto pay turned on. Most people do that, and the companies that use us are getting paid 70% of their monthly dollars within 7 days because of that feature. But the fourth and probably foundational component is the ability to give the homeowner a tool to communicate directly with the service company very specifically. They can click on a button that says request service. And when they do that, they can type up a request and they can add a photo or even a video. Now, when they hit submit, that goes and lands on your pool company's dashboard as a service request. And when you click on it, now, two things happen. Number one, the customer's going to get an automatic notification that says your service request is being reviewed. Now, when you take that inside of our system, a number of things. Number one, it's already associated with the customer who sent it in. So we already know who it is and where they are. Number two, you're going to see and hear whatever the problem is. And number three, you can take that request and you can drive that into an immediate dispatch or schedule it into the future. The baseline of that effort might be, well, maybe it's a revenue generator. And so we need to send an estimate to the customer. So you can take that request and it converts into an estimate that goes to the customer automatically. And the customer will get that estimate and they can hit decline or accept. When they click accept, it comes back to the system as a loaded transaction, as a loaded job for that guy to go get scheduled and done. Now, once he does that, once he finishes that job in the field, the system will automatically generate an invoice, which will be in draft status at this point, but it will be ready to go for him to review and go, yeah, that looks good, and push a button and it automatically sends an invoice. So people say, well, are you taking over like what QuickBooks might do? And no, we don't. Actually, we connect with QuickBooks on a two-way sync, a very cool two-way sync, by the way. So when all of that stuff happens, it's reflected in QuickBooks automatically, including when it gets paid, it gets marked as paid in QuickBooks. So
nice.
So as I say, this is the flywheel of how these businesses operate. And we've just simply taken all of the friction points off of it and given the power back to the business owner to go make more money instead of worrying about, where did I write down Mrs. Johnson's request to get the dead bird out of the pool? Things like that.
Probably in the trash can at this point. If you can't find it,
blew out the truck window or something like that. So, and I think, look, texting can work well for people. But I find that once you get over 200 accounts, things get lost. They get pushed to the back of the priority level and you might forget about them. I mean, we've heard this from a number of our customers that this customer request module is it's a life changer for people, really. So, I mean,
Nice.
and even the guy can, you can use our app, you can use the admin dashboard actually on your phone. So you'll actually, if you're actually in the truck and maybe you're doing jobs out in the field, you'll get these alerts that things have come in and you can take it and you can dispatch it right away, right from your phone. So we've made it infinitely easier for somebody to manage their business.
That's awesome. Well, 20 minutes here has gone by in a flash. Peter, do you have
Wow.
any last minute thoughts before we head off? And please make sure to tell folks where they can find your information. There's going to be folks listening in that are going to be thinking to themselves, man, I got to get a hold of Peter because I got sticky notes out the wazoo and I don't know which pool I'm supposed to go to next. So give us all those details.
Yeah, so I think the best place to get a hold of me is email, believe it or not. So peter@provalet.io. And I would welcome those phone calls. Love to have a chance to speak with any of your listeners. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do that. And I think, last word of advice would be, if you're thinking about doing it, just go do it. I mean, just think it through a little bit, but don't let fear step in the way.
Awesome. I love it. Well, folks listening in, if you just caught the tail end here, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to the whole thing, especially if you're a service business or you're aspiring to be an entrepreneur in maybe a service type business. Peter's got a solution that can help streamline and potentially automate a lot of the back end stuff. So want to encourage you to go check that out. I'll put all the links in the podcast description for folks to do that. And I'll put Peter's email in there as well if folks are more interested in finding out more information from Peter. We hope everybody has a phenomenal rest of their week. And until next time, I'm John Quick from the United States Small Business Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, Peter.
Thank you, John. Great to be with you.